The Trump administration has dramatically altered U.S. immigration enforcement policies, effectively ending long-standing restrictions on arrests in sensitive locations, such as schools, churches, and hospitals. This represents a significant shift in approach, reversing more than a decade of limitations on Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and Customs and Border Protection, CBP, operations within these designated areas. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, the overarching agency responsible for both ICE and CBP, issued a statement justifying the change, asserting that criminals will no longer be able to hide in America's schools and churches to avoid arrest. This declaration underscores the administration's commitment to a more aggressive, proactive stance on immigration enforcement, prioritizing apprehension and removal regardless of location. The implications of this policy reversal are far-reaching and potentially disruptive to the lives of undocumented immigrants and the communities that support them. For over a decade, the sensitive locations policy aimed to create safe havens, allowing individuals to access essential services like healthcare and education without the fear of immediate deportation. The dismantling of these protections eliminates this crucial element of sanctuary, forcing vulnerable populations to navigate a significantly more precarious existence. The potential chilling effect on community engagement and access to vital services is a critical concern raised by advocacy groups and community leaders alike. The decision raises ethical questions about the balance between public safety and the protection of vulnerable populations seeking assistance. The argument that criminals utilize these locations as safe havens fails to fully address the potential for collateral damage to innocent individuals who may be unjustly targeted. The lack of distinction between genuinely dangerous individuals and those simply seeking refuge raises serious concerns regarding the potential for discriminatory enforcement practices. Furthermore, the administration concurrently reinstated nationwide expedited removal, a policy that allows for the swift deportation of undocumented individuals apprehended within the country who cannot demonstrate continuous residency for over 2 years. This measure significantly accelerates the deportation process, limiting the opportunity for legal representation and due process. The expedited removal process, already controversial for its potential for errors and injustices, has now been broadened to encompass the entire nation, significantly increasing the vulnerability of undocumented immigrants across the country. This rapid deportation mechanism, coupled with the elimination of sensitive locations protections, paints a picture of an administration determined to swiftly and decisively remove undocumented individuals from the United States, regardless of individual circumstances or potential humanitarian considerations. Critics argue that this approach undermines the principles of due process and fair treatment enshrined in U.S. law, potentially leading to a surge in deportations without proper consideration of individual cases. The implications for communities that serve as vital support networks for undocumented immigrants are profound. Churches and other faith-based organizations often provide crucial resources and assistance to vulnerable populations, including food, shelter, and legal aid. Schools provide essential education services to children regardless of immigration status. Hospitals offer critical health care, regardless of legal residency. By allowing immigration enforcement within these institutions, the administration risks chilling the provision of these vital services. Individuals who rely on these support structures may become increasingly hesitant to seek assistance, potentially worsening their overall well-being and further marginalizing already vulnerable communities. The renewed focus on aggressive enforcement actions comes amidst a broader debate on immigration reform in the United States. The administration's actions represent a significant departure from previous policies that sought to strike a balance between enforcement and humanitarian concerns. The shift towards a more aggressive, zero-tolerance approach raises questions about the effectiveness of such strategies in achieving long-term immigration goals, while also highlighting concerns about the potential for widespread human rights violations. The lack of transparency and public consultation preceding these policy changes has also drawn criticism, raising questions about accountability and the democratic process. The juxtaposition of these policy changes with an earlier appeal for mercy towards migrants by the Episcopal Bishop of Washington during an inaugural prayer service further underscores the stark moral and ethical divisions surrounding immigration policy in the U.S. The bishop's plea represents a direct appeal to the administration's conscience, highlighting the humanitarian imperative to treat vulnerable populations with compassion and understanding. The stark contrast between this plea for empathy and the administration's subsequent action highlights the deep-seated political and ideological divisions that fuel the ongoing debate about immigration reform and the future of undocumented immigrants in the United States. The administration's decisions underscore a commitment to a significantly harsher approach to immigration enforcement, leaving significant questions about the long-term consequences for both the undocumented population and the broader American society. The coming years will likely witness ongoing legal challenges and social unrest as the impact of these sweeping policy changes unfolds.